starting on page 317, talks about different types of ceremonial speeches, special occasions. You'll find in your life that there are times when you need to give a special kind of speech. Not a long speech, but a short speech. For instance, maybe you need to welcome people. Maybe you need to accept an award. That's always good. Maybe you need to introduce somebody, like a speaker, to an organization. And you'll want to kind of have an idea of what is expected of you to say. So that's what Chapter 15 covers. The first type of special occasion speech is the speech of welcome. This is on page 317. The expectations are that you're familiar with the group. So if you're welcoming people to a meeting or to a convention or to like an organization's event, you want to make sure that you're familiar with that group. You also want to explain what the occasion is, why people are here, and just kind of remind everyone. You also want to invite the listeners, in and tell them that their attendance is really definitely appreciated, and express your hope that they have a good time and that they enjoy it. Okay. Another type of introductory speech is the speech of introduction, and that's where you are introducing a speaker, a person in particular. Maybe you've been to something on campus or you've had a speaker into your school. They don't just come in and start talking. Somebody usually introduces them so that you know who they are and what they're going to talk about. And you may be the one that has to do that. Don't think you won't, because I bet you will in your lifetime. Your goals are to establish a supportive climate for the main speaker. So you want everybody to know who the person is, what they're going to talk about, and just kind of set the stage for that person. You want to highlight their credibility, so you'll have to get a little bit of biographical information from the speaker ahead of time. So find out ahead of time what they would like to have said about them, their education, their experience that's relevant to what they're speaking about. Usually the speech of introduction is not more than a couple minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. Remember, people are there to listen to the speaker, not the introducer. So you want to highlight who the person is, give that biographical information, their experience with the topic that they're going to talk about, and then just a welcome and say their name correctly. Okay? If they have a name that, is tough to pronounce, make sure you find out from that speaker how to pronounce their name. Page 319 and 320 talk about two other types of special occasion speeches, one being a speech of nomination, where you propose that somebody be a nominee for an elected office or that they get an award. A lot of times you actually do a written nomination, but sometimes you're asked to give oral nominations. Either way, if it's written or you present it orally, you want to make sure that you highlight several qualities of the person that makes them eligible for the award or the office or whatever it is that you're nominating them for. And give some specifics, some examples of what they've done that makes them worthy of the award or the honor. Okay. The speeches of recognition, these these can be fun, where you recognize the accomplishments of someone. You discuss the nature of the accomplishment or the award that they're receiving, including the history, who donated, for instance, like a scholarship. If somebody earns a scholarship, you talk about who is donating the money, why they donated the money, and what the criteria are for earning this recognition, for getting the scholarship or the award or whatever it is. You show how the person that's getting it has met those requirements. So you got to give specifics. Always details and examples. Another type is if you are actually receiving an award, which is always a good thing. You want to briefly thank the person or the group who's given you the honor. You want to acknowledge the people who didn't win the award but were also nominated. You've probably heard that on the Academy Awards. People, they oh, I feel just so honored to have been nominated. So you want to acknowledge that there were lots of other, or there were several other people who were also qualified. Tell how you feel about receiving the award and thank people who've helped you, who assisted you, who you've worked with. I'll come back to the speeches of tribute in just a minute. I do want to talk about those few other ceremonial speeches that are on page 324. Commencement speeches, those are given, of course, at graduation ceremonies. Not to be confused is the commemorative speech or the commemorative address. And if you look at that word commemorative, you see the word memory in there? A commemorative speech is in remembrance of a date or a person. So like September 11th every year, the President of the United States usually gives a commemorative address remembering what happened that day. A keynote address is the big speaker at a convention. That's the one that everybody's there to hear, the famous person. And I think that's all I'll cover with those. The last type of special occasion speech that I'll talk about are the speeches of tribute, and this is the type that you'll be giving. This will be your 5th major speech assignment. So I want to take some time to cover that one in detail since you have to do it. A speech of tribute praises or celebrates a person. I talked briefly about the commemorative address that remembers, a historical date, something, that has happened in the past, anniversaries, that sort of thing. A speech of tribute is about a person or people where you pay honor to that person. A lot of times these are done when somebody retires from a job. It can be done at like 50th wedding anniversaries. Maybe you had grandparents that had a 50th wedding anniversary and people get up and speak and talk about their marriage and all the good things that have happened over the years. The goal is to invite the listeners to appreciate the person or the people that are being paid tribute to. You want to focus on notable, your book says, notable characteristics and achievements, and then you want to back that up with stories and specific examples. That's what makes these types of speeches so much more interesting, and in the case of a fun speech of tribute, it does make them fun. So a type of fun speech of tribute would be toasts, and those are what you give. Maybe if you're a best man or maid of honor at a wedding, you have to give the toast. Or if you're commemorating somebody's wedding anniversary, maybe I shouldn't use the term commemorating. If you're paying tribute to parents, grandparents at their anniversary, or someone who's retiring from their job, you just want to give a very brief little speech and focus on 1 or 2 characteristics and back it up with some examples. A wedding toast can be a little longer because you want to talk about the couple and how they met and what their relationship means, and those can be kind of fun. Be careful not to get off color with those wedding toasts. Remember your audience. At a wedding, it's not just the young people there that are part of the wedding party and the friends of the wedding party. There's also parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles, and they will take a dim view of things that are too bawdy, too vulgar. So keep that in mind to keep it on the cleaner side. Okay. After you talk about the tributes or the characteristics of the person, then you ask everyone to raise their glass and you say to the couple or to Grandpa and Grandma, may you have a long and happy marriage, or whatever the case may be. Okay. If you are the one being toasted, you don't have to drink. You can just sit and listen and say thank you. The last type of speech of tribute, or another, I should say not the last, but another type would be a eulogy. And this is given at someone's funeral, where you remember the person and some positive things that they've done in their life, how they've affected you. You want to select 3 or 4 positive personal characteristics and then use those specific stories to provide your support. That's where you get your research from in all of these types of speeches. It's your specific examples and details from that person's life. All right, let's talk a little bit about your speech of tribute. On the website, under chapters 15 and 16, you'll see the speech of tribute assignment. This one only needs to be 3 to 4 minutes long, so it doesn't need to be real long. This will be more like the toasts in a way. It's 3 to 4 minutes. Your goal is to help your audience understand why or how a person has had a certain effect on you. Okay, so you'll want to choose 3 to 5 personality traits, characteristics, accomplishments of this person to use as your main points. Something to keep in mind, you're giving a speech of tribute, not a eulogy. So you do need to choose someone who's alive. Okay, I want you to think about how moving it could be for someone to hear that they've impacted your life, that they've meant a lot to you. And so I always require students to give the speech of tribute about someone who's alive. And because I think it is so important for humans to hear that they've had an impact on other humans, I give you bonus points if the person comes to class and listens to your speech. So I'll give you 10 bonus points if you give your speech of tribute about the person and the person is in the room while you're giving the speech. Okay, so think about that. See if you can't get that arranged if you need some bonus points. It's very moving, and it means a lot to people to hear that. Being in the business that my husband and I are, being in the funeral home business, we see all too often people wait until someone is dead to realize, and they have that regret that they didn't tell them how much they meant to them. So this gives you an opportunity to do that and see just how powerful that is. You're going to want stories and examples from that person's life to use as support for your main points. Talk to other people that know this person and get their viewpoint, get some quotes from them. You have to convince us this person has had a certain effect on you. They've touched your life, they've influenced you in a certain way, they helped you make a decision, there's somebody that you really look up to, whatever the case may be. You do need to have a source, and that could be an interview with someone, maybe doing a little lookup of history to find out what was going on during this person's life, that sort of thing. So just one source, and you can have 3 note cards. But this speech isn't for a few weeks, so you have some time, and I really want you to think about a person that's influenced you, has had an impact on you, someone that you look up to and respect and would like to share that with them. Well, believe it or not, we're on the last chapter. Seems like the semester's flown by. Chapter 16 looks at the phenomenon of working in groups. And all of you have probably worked in groups in the past, and you will in the future. And there's always this group dynamic that happens. So Chapter 16 helps you understand how to be a good group member. And if you ever have to lead a group in their work, it gives you some advice on how to be a good group leader as well. Problem-solving groups usually have 4 to 7 people that are asked to carry out some specific task, to do some job. So you can see where these are pretty common in the workplace. You're going to work with people all the time to get things accomplished. To do your work, you need to analyze, you need to brainstorm solutions, what's the best way to proceed, and then make recommendations on what your group has decided to do. Many times you'll be asked to present what your group has found out, what your group has decided. You'll be asked to present that to other people. So you need to know, you need these public speaking skills that you've been picking up this semester. But in order to get to that point, you need to be an effective group and work together. On page 329, there's that image of the hand. And it says the responsibility of group members. It kind of, if you think of them each being a finger, you need all of them to work the best. The first is the thumb, be committed to the group goal. What is it that you have to accomplish? Everyone needs to be on the same page. Second is to help keep the discussion on track. It's so easy when you get 4 or 5 people together to start veering off and talking about other things. But that's non-productive, so you really want to keep everybody and keep yourself in check. If you stay on track, that'll help the rest of the group stay on track. So that's 2. 3 is to complete your individual assignments. Each person in a group usually has tasks that they're responsible for. Get them done on time. If you don't, that slows up the whole group. So being aware and being conscientious about your jobs that you need to do and when they need to be done helps your group get their work done. 4th is managing conflict. That can be the toughest thing. People have different viewpoints and different ideas about how and when things should be done. So it's not easy. You can take a whole class just on working in groups and managing group conflict and getting along in groups. And I did. I took a class in college called Group Problem Solving Discussions. All semester, all I did is group discussions. So here are some things that you can do. You can avoid conflict by hurting someone's feelings. You may think some things, but put that filter in place and you don't have to say them all. If something's going to sabotage the group working, maybe it's best left unsaid. Another thing that isn't helpful is pressuring group members to go along with the majority. Sometimes that person who's skeptical or who's questioning has a valid point. And instead of trying to hush them up so you can get your work done, maybe taking a few extra minutes and listening to what they have to say can help your group really move forward. If you need to reach consensus, make sure that you do have the support of everyone. Consensus means it's a decision everyone can live with. And then everybody's going to support that decision. Even if they're not 100% in favor of it, in order for the group to get their work done, they've decided they're all going to really get behind that idea. If disagreements happen, don't ignore it. Sometimes people have legitimate gripes. So hear it out. And if you are extremely upset about something, you do have a responsibility to voice that so that it can get taken care of. But in a responsible, professional way. You don't want to be, that's not professional. Okay. Sometimes a group member or groups try to rationalize a decision. Well, that's just the easiest way to do it. Nobody cares anyway, so let's just go with that. That's going to kind of lead to maybe some explosions, and that's just not the best way to come to a decision. The 5th thing you want to do is encourage input from all the group members. If you notice somebody is not saying much, ask them some questions. Get their input. If you don't say a lot, you have a responsibility to get your input in there as well so that everyone knows what you're thinking. Some people like to talk a lot and they'll take over the entire conversation, and that can also be a problem. Just monitor yourself and make sure you're not speaking too much. The rest of chapter 16 talks about how you work through the process of solving a problem as a group. On page 331, they start going through the 6 or 7 steps, 6 steps. You identify what it is you're trying to do, what's the work you're trying to do, what's the problem you're trying to solve. Then you analyze the problem, determine what criteria you're going to use to decide which is your best solution. Then you get to your brainstorming. So you've done some research and you brainstorm what all the possible solutions are. Remember, we've been doing that to find main points. Do the same thing when you work in a group. Everybody kind of goes out and does their research, and then they come together and brainstorm. Instead of one person, you all get to brainstorm and come up with the best solutions. And then you test all of those possible solutions against those criteria. So if our problem is we need to add on to a building at our job, and we're not sure, what the best plan is, you probably want some criteria like what's the most cost effective, what gives us the space that we need, when can it be completed, what's the timing. And you look at your possible solutions and see which one meets those criteria in the best ways. Then once you've come to consensus about what the best solution is, then you want to implement it. And that's where you all get behind it. Maybe you didn't 100%, yes, that's what I wanted, but you have to be able to live with it and support it. There's different types of ways that groups present their findings to other people. There's symposiums. That's where there's like a panel of people and they each give a little pre-written or pre-prepared speech, and then people can ask questions from the audience. And you have a moderator who says, okay, we'll take another question, and they just, okay, we're ready, thanks for your answers, now we're ready for another question, so they'll moderate it. Another type is a panel discussion, and that's where you actually go through the process of solving the problem in front of a group of people. Many times boards do this. They'll work through a solution with other people watching them. And the last type of public group presentation would be a town hall meeting. That's where there's usually a panel of people in the front again, and then lots of other people will come to hear what they have to say and to give their input to the people who are, or give it to the group. Okay. So that pretty much wraps up chapters 15 and 16. You'll see a lot of these terms on your exam. You'll want to start thinking about that speech of tribute and what person you know who's alive that you would like to tell the rest of the class about, how they've influenced you, why they're a meaningful person in your life. So start thinking about that, and I will see you later.